I would snap, I would lash out, I would just kind of be really sharp with Angela when I was just already at capacity. And a lot of that would come out in a very condescending way. And so then she's like, so we're dealing with all this other stuff, and then now she's not calling me out, but she's calling me up. Like, this is not the way that I want to be treated. I'm like, I know, but like at the same time, like, I've always done this whenever I get frustrated. This is how I express my frustration. Like, won't you just, love me for who I am? And that was a bit of me really arguing for my limitations and arguing to stay stuck. But it was really hard for me to also feel like a bad husband. I'm like, if I'm treating you like this, and I've done this not all the time in our marriage, but like every so often it's going to come up, but it's just been a pattern that comes up and rears its ugly head whenever I'm not at my best. I really had some internal reflections of like, what kind of husband am I if I am making my wife feel less than? And so, yeah, that awareness was really hard because I wanted to hold Angela and step up and do better. And then I was also managing a lot of deep shame and disappointment in myself for not having identified the importance of working through that earlier in our marriage. Hello and welcome to Married and Magnetic, the place for entrepreneurial couples who want to stay happily married.
In each episode, we have real conversations with ordinary couples doing extraordinary things, sharing achievements, everyday joys, challenges, and the mindset and tools that make love the greatest strategic edge.
We are James
And Angela Mitchell.
a real-life married couple. She's a counselor,
And he's a coach.
parents to 3 kids,
And co-founders of Love Intentionally. We've ridden the highs
and lows.
of building businesses while working hard to stay happily married. We've lived it, done the work,
Got the t-shirt.
and are here to help you do the same.
This is Married and Magnetic, where love, business, and growth collide. Let's dive in, y'all. Hello and welcome to another episode of Married and Magnetic. We are your host, James
And Angela.
Mitchell, and we are Love Intentionally. And today, your guests are us. We are our own guests. We're going to be sharing part 2 of a 3-part story about the year that we spent abroad in South America, in Peru. Excited to share this story and excited to share it with you. Our intention for sharing this story is that, one, we want to inspire you and help illuminate some ideas and help bring some courage to you to do that thing, whatever that scary thing is. It could be living abroad for a year. It could be going on a long trip. It could be starting a business, but really just to lean into the discomfort that is generally step 1 of getting to the life you desire.
Great. So last time, part 1, if you haven't listened, we talked about the lead up, the decision to move abroad, and then all of the balls we had to get in place to do that, and thoughts and things that were helpful. So we did the lead up last time. And then this part is going to be the while we were there, actual experience of spending a year in South America.
Yeah. We're going to do this for about, 35, 40 minutes or so. And we could definitely lean into it a lot longer than that. We're going to give you the highlight reel, y'all. We're going to keep it nice, tight, and share what we think are the most valuable points that we've learned and that really apply in terms of this idea of what we call it personal development. Like, that's what we're here to do, is to learn and grow. And so this is what we learned and grew from. And so you can hopefully lean into that as well.
All right. So the beginning, we arrived and our landing was a little stressful. Because we decided to buy a car, which was a really great choice. I'm really glad we had the car. We ended up buying a big van. We wanted to buy a van because we knew we were going on a road trip. We ended up buying a big van because it was all that was available. But that was a little stressful way to start. Everyone was still kind of amped up from the move. Our son had a car accident right before we left, and so my nervous system was really on alert and frazzled from that experience.
And then we land in the city of Lima, one of the largest cities in the world.
8 million people?
I think we're closer to 11 in Lima. And we're not city people. And so there we are in the city in a hotel, which became our hometel, thinking that we could buy a car in a couple of days and just get on the road. And it was a 3-day drive from Lima to our ultimate destination in the Sacred Valley. And it turns out buying a car in Peru, as somebody who is not...
It's a foreigner.
Yeah, as a foreigner, wasn't a 3-day process whatsoever. And thank God we made it to a 5-day process.
That was short.
That was short. We figured at some point it was about to be a 2-week process. And it was like, oh my gosh, no. And again, not city people. I mean, at one point we were in a taxi cab, and this was one of the traumatic moments for one of our daughters. They drive on all sides of the road anywhere they can, especially motorcycles are going up and down around cars,
in and out of traffic
on the side of the sidewalk. And our daughter opens up the door.
The taxi to get out.
Yeah,
at our destination.
Because we're at the sidewalk side of things, and turns out there's a guy on a moto cruising right by us, and he gets clotheslined by the car, by the door. Yeah, whoops. He was okay. Bike was mostly okay. 300 soles got us out of that one pretty quick, and we just moved on about it.
Less than $100, which we just gave him to help with any bike damage.
Yeah.
They don't like call the police there if an accident happens.
So that was like part of the scrapes and bruises that came, and also part of the learning, and part of the learning for our girls. Like, hey, we cannot expect the same things in this place.
We are not in Kansas anymore.
No, we are not. And so buying the car was really quite a thing. Thank gosh for our lawyer. At some point, they were like, it's going to be 2 weeks before we can get this stamp in your passport. We texted him. We had the thing in 20 minutes, and we got to keep rolling through the notaria process. It's not very, and here you give somebody the money, they give you the car, and there it was not like that. So
yeah, so I would say one thing to know if you are going abroad is just the systems. I mean, but the systems are different. And sometimes we were surprised by the number of hoops we had to jump through, or the different hoops that we had to jump through than maybe we would have here. Just because, yeah, everybody's system is different. At one point with the car, and this is on the back end, when we went to try to sell it, there was this thing where I was like, well, you have to, yes, we now see that you've paid taxes, but they didn't register in the system. So someone has to go in person in Lima to show that you submitted the taxes. And we were like, it's 2025. Can't you do that digitally? Like, can't we send you a picture? Can't you look in your system that we paid the taxes?
And our lawyer said something at that beginning whenever we asked for that stamp and needed it, and he got it to us in 20 minutes. He said, for any legal matters, you should call me before you get started. And I didn't realize buying a car was a legal matter. And so buying that vehicle was one of our first awarenesses that, okay, yeah, let's make sure that we've got the right team on board. And from then on, we definitely hit him up on all the things that we needed, and it made everything go that much smoother.
Yeah, so we started off spending a lot of time in taxi cabs, breathing in lots of exhaust, driving on crazy roads to different car dealerships to try to find a car. Poor girls were just drug along to all of that, trying to navigate a legal system we didn't know or understand. We did end up finding an interpreter that helped, because even though my Spanish is decent for like travel Spanish at that point, I did not feel comfortable negotiating a car deal or all the bureaucracy that came with that. So that was helpful. James found him on...
I found him on, what was it? Upwork.
Upwork.
And so he came around with us in person for a couple of days. And, just having these local guides that know, we really, kind of had this. We fancy ourselves capable and smart, and also just having those local people that can help make it go better. So that was what we learned. And gratefully we learned that, because again, like, we had just landed, and it was a lot of chaos and a lot of tension and some sadness. Like, are we leaving? We're missing our friends already, our girls having the tension. And so that was how that got rock and rolled. And we ended up finding the right van, 11-passenger van. When we got insurance on it, it was commercial insurance. We were basically a tourism company for the time we were there. And gratefully so, we gave so many people so many rides in that thing.
It ended up being great.
Got to meet a lot of people that way, because a lot of people hitchhike. And so we just pick them up. We got lots of space.
Yeah. I will say what we did during that time is we were staying at a lovely hotel with lots of great staff members. And that really, to me, helped make that time more manageable. And it was more expensive of a hotel than we spent on hotels most of the rest of our time traveling in Peru. But at that point, it felt worth it, because after stressful days, we needed somewhere to come back to that felt comfortable. The girls had a pool to swim in. They had great food we could eat there. And so it really helped us have a place that felt like a relaxation and a de-escalation after a day of being really amped up. So for us, a lot of this is kind of the give and take of it. And it's yes, this is more money than we would normally spend on a hotel. But right now, for our emotional well-being, that's what we need. Later on, as we got more accustomed to things, we could rough it in a lower standard hotel. Especially
if there weren't options in the town we were at for a nicer hotel, which happened often.
So kind of that cost-benefit analysis. So
we get the van, drive out of the lot, got my first experience driving in Lima, and that was wild. Driving in Lima, driving South America is crazy in general. It's like a video game. And so we get the van, get back to the hotel safely. That was like, okay, gosh, if I can make it this first hour drive in the city of Lima without getting into an accident, I'm going to feel really solid and capable.
I was clutching the door handle most of the time and gasping.
Oh yeah.
For
Oh yeah. It was great.
breakfast.
I loved it, for the record. I mean, ask anybody that was with me in the van, like, I can survive on it. I'm like, if people are driving here, I can drive here. And so get the van, and then that started our 3-day journey to the house in the valley.
It was also a little stressful.
Also a little
We went over big mountain passes, windy roads with semi trucks passing on blind corner.
Yeah,
It was
like
an
just
adventure.
it was a trial by fire on learning the rules, or the lack thereof of the rules, on the road, how to eat on the road, what places we could eat at, trying to make sure that we stay healthy. On day 2 of the drive, day 1 was straight down the coast, so all nice and level, sea level. And then day 2, I kind of figured, just like Colorado, like, we're going to start slow and gradually work our way up in the mountains, because our final destination was at 10,000 feet, around 17 to 20,000 foot peaks. But no, that wasn't the case at all. On day 2, we got up to one of the highest places. We were over 15,000 feet in the car on day 2. Had no idea we were getting to that level until all of a sudden the girls started getting sick, altitude sick.
At first, we were like, oh, they're getting car sick, which they might have because it was windy. But then we realized, oh, we're at really high altitude coming from spending the last week at sea level.
Higher than any location in Colorado
that they've ever been, right?
Yeah.
And usually, being Coloradoans, we don't struggle with alcohol, not either,
Maybe.
altitude, very often. So for us, it wasn't really on the radar, but we realized, oh, we just spent a week at sea level, and now we're at 15,000 feet. That is drastic. And so no one was feeling very well, including the girls. We had to stop on the side of the road a couple times for maybe throw up incidents. So
just a couple.
Made it.
Yeah. So there's a little perseverance again, just getting used to the space and feeling our bodies acclimating literally, and just going through it. For me, I'm like, just let's drive. Let's go. And we had one 12-hour driving day in that, which was a little much. We had a standard, right? So I got back into my old driving style of having a manual stick shift, which was really great. But I also learned that 12 hours of doing that will literally make my shoulders seize up. So Angela's rubbing my shoulder. So just don't know what we don't know at this phase of it, and just leaning in and just showing up for it and being there. And finally we get to the valley, and as we're driving in there, a sense of relief came over us.
I feel like it was a big exhale when we arrived.
Because we'd been there before, so we knew it. And just for Angela and I alone, it just started to feel like, okay, we're in a space that we understand. We know what the space is like. We've been here. We've been to the house.
It's out of the city.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so we get to our home, which was absolutely stunning, and get to settle.
Yeah. We meet our landlord the next day. I think she wasn't there the first night. And she is lovely and helpful and sweet and kind, and lives in a little casita on the property. She ended up being a wonderful not only landlord, but became a friend and someone we could ask questions to.
Spanish teacher too.
She only spoke Spanish, and she was from the jungle, Iquitos, which is where Carla, my best friend, is from. And so it was funny, actually. I could understand her very well, and I think it was because I was used to the jungle accent. It is a different accent than in the valley where we were. And so thank you to Carla and her family, because I could understand our landlord better than about anyone else at the beginning because of that just slight difference in accent. So that was kind of fun.
Yeah. And so there we are in this small town called Waran, which you cannot find on a map. And what we decided to do when we chose this location and really designed this trip was we wanted to live in a location versus travel around a location, if you follow the difference. We really wanted to create roots in a space that we could have last.
Yeah, and we have friends that we met on this trip on this experience that were nomadic, right? So they might spend a week or two in a place. If they really liked it, they might spend 2 months there, and traveled around. And I think that is a really valuable experience that a lot of people enjoy, just that adventure and the seeing all the new places and the world is so big. There's so many places to see. And I think there's real value in that. And for us, we also, like James said, we were wanting the experience of living somewhere else.
Depth versus
not just
breadth.
Traveling.
So that was the idea. One thing we learned off the bat, based on the girls' school schedule, we saw a really great opportunity to take our first little micro adventure. And in a 50-minute flight, we could be in the heart of the Amazon. So we get settled in, and that was also a wild thing, right? Because where do we get groceries? Where's the market? Which people can we trust? Is this actually what they say it is? Is there a gym? how do these things work? And so we're managing all of that. And thank you to our local guides. It's so amazing to have local guides and people that are willing to share what they've done. We could send them a text and say, at that time, we were still trying to be gluten-free. And so they're like, oh, here's where you can get gluten-free stuff.
Fun fact, we did not have to stay gluten-free. The
No,
gluten is very different in South America, and we were all very fine and felt great even eating
incredible.
gluten there. We were
So
hoping that would stick when we got back, and it didn't quite stick.
not quite. So we've got all these things that we've really just clawed our way through, really worked our way through, and just know like that's just part of the process. Like when you get into these new spaces, like how do I live? Like how do I feed myself? How do I get around? Like what time do places close? Like is there a gym? What's their story, right? And so all these different pieces are happening. And for some reason, we thought it was a really great idea based on how things were looking before we arrived that we'll go to the jungle this week.
We'll have been there about a month. We'll go do this exploration for 4 days, 5 days, long weekend kind of thing. So yes, it seemed like a good idea. In hindsight, I would have waited till we had lived there longer because we were like just figuring out our current location. And then it is kind of wild being literally being in the Amazon. So we take this flight to
Puerto Maldonado.
Is that? Yeah, Puerto Maldonado. And then we take it's a boat ride, an hour down the river to a eco lodge in the middle of the Amazon. That's off grid. They have little cabins to stay in. They did have I think they used solar power, so we did have some electricity.
We had a shower. There was a water heater that we did not want or use. Cold water was ideal. But we get off the boat. I mean, we're still fresh into this Peruvian experience. And our youngest at the time was she didn't like bugs. They really freaked her out. She was scared of them. And we get off the boat. We hike up this 3 flights of stairs from the river to where we're finally at the bank, up the bank. And there's all these ants. And they're not small.
Giant ants.
And she's like, oh my God, look at all these ants. She freaks out. And the guide goes, you're in the Amazon.
He's like, those are our small insects. And she just looks at us with these big wide eyes like, oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh. And
the good news, fast forward, she's not really scared of bugs anymore. She totally had to face that fear and just get over it. So she did.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I mean, the moment for me was I remember walking. So they would take us on these guided walks, and it was usually just our family and maybe one other couple that happened to be there, which kind of rotated throughout the days we were there. But it'd take us there'd be a guide with a machete taking us through on these trails in the middle of the Amazon. And James at one point was like, can I get one of those?
Get one of those.
I have a machete. And the guide was like, no. So at some point you're like, I really wish we all had machetes right now. I would give the kids a machete right now because that would feel safe.
The local kids all have machetes. They grew up with machetes in their hands. It's like their baby present, you know?
It's unsafe to not have a machete when you're a kid because you could be attacked by a wild boar.
So which we kind of almost did. We stumbled across these boars and there's this giant commotion. We're in the middle of it. It's just our family and this guide. And we're like, what is that animal? And gratefully it ran away from us.
He basically said there were 2 types of boars. One would have run at us and one would have run away from us. And luckily we came across the group of boars that ran away from us.
I got super impressed. They took us over a sky bridge and up into the canopy, right? So you're going up this thing and there's some protection on it, but it's really South American, right? It is just not dialed in. And at one point there's a hole in the thing and it's pretty flat, but then it starts to really turn into a ladder so you can get up there, and our girls are just going, and Angela and I are like, holy shit, oh my gosh, I've been doing this.
And I don't know the last time a person with safety standards checked this bridge.
Not at all. So there we are. And that was a huge learning experience for us, was to one, trust ourselves, trust our guides, trust the things. And I mean, yeah, shit happens, but also we're here and we believe in perfect timing. We believe in our safety, and to let our girls do it. And so they climbed up that thing. They had a great time, and it turned out to be amazing. Some of the most amazing sunsets ever from up there. So,
and I think too, also realizing one of the things I turned out to love about Peru, and I think, probably South America in general, is, people don't sue each other there.
There's no personal injury lawyers.
Yeah. And so that creates just this whole different atmosphere. One of the things it creates is everyone is basically responsible for their own safety. So you are expected to make your own safety decisions, right? And to look out for dangers, look out for potholes in the road, look out for if there's a wire hanging down from a building, don't touch it, right? A lot of it's kind of common sense stuff that when James was reflecting afterwards as we're talking to Carla on the phone about our experience, and she's again from the jungle. And James is like, yeah, and they didn't make us sign any like liability waivers or anything. And she just starts laughing and she's like, well, you went to the jungle. Obviously, you could get hurt. Like, why do you need to sign a waiver to tell you, like, that you could get hurt? You're going to the jungle.
We got to get off this jungle story, but the last little piece is we're driving around in the boat in pitch black at night. We're going on these adventures, and I'm like, there's logs there. I know rivers. Like, you can't see anything. It's crazy. Like, you can't tell me this is safe. And we're just like hanging on. On the final day, we're leaving. It's daylight, thankfully, but we're about 100 yards from the dock to get out, and all of a sudden the engine goes swack, and it hit an underground log, flies off. An underwater log. It flies off. Luckily, there was a safety rope on it. It broke our captain's kneecaps. They're trying to get it back in the boat. I've got to help. And then I'm using a broom in the boat to help us like get back to the shore because we're in the middle of the river. And so it's like, okay, yeah, these things do happen, and so that was fun. So we've got all these experiences. We gratefully had a lot of bumps, bruises, close calls, just like helped us feel alive. But we, for the entire trip, stayed great, like no major issues whatsoever. So there's all this stuff happening. There's all this tension going on. And that was also happening in our relationship too. So while it's super fun and we've got fun stories about travel, I think one of the real pieces that came up was when Angela and I stepped out of the patterns of our life in the United States, our friendships, the communities that we'd have, the extra people that we could go to for support. All of a sudden, it was just the two of us, and all of the patterns of our relationship, especially the ones that weren't serving us, got a huge ass spotlight on them.
Yeah, and I think it was also at a time where I think me largely related to our son's accident right before we left, which he was fine, but it was a very bad accident. It might not have been fine. And I was still having a lot of, and I'm just going to call it PTSD. I was having some panic attacks and things related to that, which was also related to being in a car, which was very stressful being in a car in South America, period. And then you throw on top of the fact that I'm having this anxiety around cars.
I'm like driving and she's crying and I'm like, babe, it's okay. Like, we got to get there.
I was like dysregulated because of that, plus being in the new environment. And then I think for you, taking your family to this unknown space, right? And you were also at a heightened level of alertness and awareness, and your nervous system was also on edge.
100%. I'm tracking everything. I'm watching out for people trying to, everything we own is in the van, right? So I'm trying to watch out for people that are going to try to steal it. We had no issues with that. Even I forgot my backpack at one place after lunch and had my laptop in it, and I went back and they had it for me. They were like, here you go. Like, I mean, so I started to really build some trust in the space, but like, you're always aware, always traveling.
New York City, right? I am very aware of what
and being the protector and my job to keep this family safe. Yeah. And being out of my element, I didn't really realize how much of an impact that was going to have on me. And what happened is my own stuff that was coming up inside of me was hard enough to deal with. And I was at a capacity that was pretty damn close to full. And so when Angela needed the extra support and was having her own crises, like, I wasn't available for it. And I was like, babe, I don't got you right now. And that was the first time in our relationship that's ever happened. And that was challenging. That sucked, actually. It was more than challenging. It was fucking hard.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I think both of our nervous systems were on edge. And so, we had some clients, and I love this analogy. They were like, when one of us is struggling and the other one's okay, like, we can manage that, no problem. But when they're both struggling, he was like, it's kind of like we're two drunks leaving a bar. Like, who's going to get us home, right? When we're both struggling. And I think that was part of it for us, was just that, yeah, it was stressful for both of us. And again, I think there were some extenuating circumstances with the accident and all that. But I do think moving to another country can be stressful, right? At the beginning anyway, and figuring out how do you manage your own needs and, ours. And then, like, for me, also the kids, right? And because I spoke the most Spanish in the family, I felt like a lot was falling on me to help everyone navigate the external world.
It wasn't. You didn't feel that way. It actually was.
Yes.
It was true.
It was true. And so that felt like a lot of pressure too, on like trying to not only manage my own feelings, but everyone else's. And then throw on top of that, and this is a lesson learned, that is a little pro tip, is we didn't have our outside support systems as much there either. So, here in the US, we actually go to separate gyms and I have like a little gym community, and not only is working out good for my mental health and helps me relieve stress, but I also have people there I can talk to. I have friends that I do lunches and happy hours with, and I have all these things in my life that are other outlets besides you that help me manage my emotions. And we didn't have those there, right? We were just starting to meet people. We could call people back home, but that even felt hard or like, I don't know. I don't know.
It was different. And so our connection really started to fray. We both wanted to be seen. Nobody was really feeling that appreciated. And there was a total lack of desire, those being the three components of connection. And I'll call myself out for this. Whenever I start to get to that frayed space, I get frustrated. Now, that's just what starts to happen. And so my ability to manage that frustration was just not there the way it usually is. Or maybe it was the way it usually is. And I was just something that would happen back home and we would just like chalk it up and slide past it. But a lot of what would happen in that place is I would snap. I would lash out. I would just kind of be really sharp with Angela when I was just already at capacity. And a lot of that would come out in a very condescending way. And so then she's like, so we're dealing with all this other stuff. And then now she's not calling me out, but she's calling me up. Like, this is not the way that I want to be treated. I'm like, I know, but like at the same time, like I've always done this whenever I get frustrated. This is how I express my frustration. Like, won't you just, love me for who I am? And that was a bit of me really arguing for my limitations and arguing to stay stuck. But it was really hard for me to also feel like a bad husband. Because I'm like, if I'm treating you like this, and I've done this not all the time in our marriage, but like every so often it's going to come up. But it's just been a pattern that comes up and rears its ugly head whenever I'm not at my best. I really had some internal reflections of like, what kind of husband am I if I am making my wife feel less than? And so then I'm fidgeting under the table right now. Like, this conversation still gets me like, oh shit. And so, yeah, that awareness was really hard because I wanted to hold Angela and step up and do better. And then I was also managing a lot of deep shame and disappointment in myself for not having identified the importance of working through that earlier in our marriage. Yeah.
But then you did while we were there.
I can already tell you we are going to turn this while we were there. No, this is a 4-part series now. We're going to get through up to Christmas and then we'll get to the second half.
Oh, yeah. And I think, as hard as that was, those first few months, and revealing those, it just exacerbating past patterns that were not serving us. It also, the flip side, the beauty of it is it brought their ugly heads to the surface where then they had to be dealt with and ultimately worked through. So it also allowed those patterns to be changed and healed.
That space really that made it available. That was like, this is what we're here to do.
We ended up having the space to do it there. And so now, I'm just shocked at how infrequently you get frustrated and how when the rare time does happen, it is so low level frustration and not turned outward. It's not, I think the turnaround has been huge.
Yeah. Thank you, Gume. Thank you, Elise. Thank you, Ayahuasca. Plugs for those three.
Yeah. So the first few months was just hard managing that tension. The other thing that was hard in the first few months, and then we're going to get to all the good stuff because it does turn beautiful, was the girls. We put them in a Spanish speaking school on purpose. We wanted them to learn Spanish. And so and they had a few teachers at school that spoke English and a few kids. So that was nice. They had someone they could go to when they needed to, but most of the day was in Spanish. So they would come home and their brains would just hurt and be tired, right, from having to just try to absorb this other language all day. And we did little things before we left. We did some Duolingo and we had a Spanish tutor for a little while, but probably not enough to really get them very comfortable. But immersion is the best way to learn, and that's what they did. And so people had told us it'll take about 3 months and then it'll just click. And they were right. It took about 3 months, and then the girls, and it was gradual where they started to understand better, but still be a little hesitant to communicate. By 3 months, they're not coming home tired anymore. They're starting to speak Spanish around the house. They would start to bicker in Spanish, which I always just think is funny. And I asked them at one point, well, one, I didn't mind it because I'm like, well, it actually makes their bickering more enjoyable because I'm like, oh, they're using their new language. And so it bothered me less when they bickered in Spanish. But I also asked them one time, I was like, why do you switch to Spanish when you guys are arguing? And they're like, there's just better words. It's better. So thank you for the fiery directness of Latin America. They kind of became these little fiery Latinas when they were bigger. So that was great. So yeah, it really clicked around 3 months. So if you are going somewhere and you're really trying to immerse yourself in a language or your kids, just know that that timeline for us did hold true.
Yeah, 3 months to get to they can speak Spanish, and then and understand it, and the second 3 months. So then 6 months hit, and they were fluent, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, our Peruvian friends would say they sounded like native speakers by, the end.
And that was it's great for them too, because school for them was challenging and they were learning, but their only job was to learn Spanish. We didn't care if they were learning math, if they were learning science, if they were learning social studies. That wasn't what time it was. It was like, you're here to learn Spanish and make friends and build a community. And so that's what they got to do. Every day they'd go off to school and they would make friends and learn Spanish. And so that was their mission. And for Angela and I, it was also to start building a community, because as Angela mentioned before, just the two of us doing everything together with no other outlets was not a sustainable situation.
When we first got there, I was scared to drive for a variety of reasons. And so I did not drive the first 2 months. So we had one car. He was the only one driving it. I could take a colectivo, like local transportation, when I needed to. That was no big deal. But that kept us together a lot. Plus, we were working together. Plus, we didn't know many people, all the things. So we really started intentionally seeking out community and finding our own spaces. So we joined a gym. We did join the same gym, but that helped us meet people.
It was the only one that didn't smell bad and had a great view. We were staring at the sacred peaks there.
Yeah. And then cafes are a great place to meet people, depending on the cafe. Some it's more local. A lot of them, it's where a lot of the expats and foreigners hang out. So we got to meet people that way. And then James had his men's group that he was still tuning into.
Yeah,
on
online.
Zoom once a week.
Absolutely. Still a part of that.
So he
Love you,
still
Jordan.
had that support. I really realized I needed a circle of women, though, that was something really important to me and was actually really valuable for our relationship as well, if I had that. And so there were a lot of women's circles and things that popped up over the time we were there. But there was one in particular I joined at the little local sauna, the Casa Sayuna. And there was a women's circle once a month there. And the first time I went, I remember just like crying because I was like, here's all these lovely women. And it was just a great community.
You also got flogged by eucalyptus branches.
It's lovely. And in the sauna, plant baths and all sorts of luxurious self-care things. So I went to that. It was once a month. It was part self-care and it was part connecting with other women who a lot of them I was friends with outside of that space as well. But I went to that religiously once a month just for my own taking care of myself and having something separate from you, which was helpful.
Yeah, I would drive them all up there because it was a little crazy windy dirt road to get up there. And so with the 11 passenger van, I just toss all the ladies in and just like haul them up. And then
until I got brave enough to drive.
Yeah.
Which I did. So that was a good basic.
It was a few months. You drove in the valley. You never drove outside the valley.
I did not drive in the valley or anything.
No, we got used to that. And for me, I think what we can do, especially in those spaces and any spaces, like how can I support you to find the communities that are going to help you to be at your best? Because I'm extremely aware that when Angela is at her best, because she went to a women's sauna for like 5 hours, like she's going to come back a better version. And it's just going to help everything in the household go much smoother. She's more available for connection and presence, both with me and the kids. And so anything I can do to help with that was awesome. We were still operating our weekly meeting down there, even though we had a lot less logistics to get through, but the emotional connection part of it was still a huge thing. And then we could really touch in and say, okay, well, when are we going to do that? How are we going to schedule that? And so, yeah, huge shout out to that weekly meeting still helping us.
Yeah. And then I think maybe the last thing to talk about in this, and then I do think we're going to have to do another part to the second half of our trip.
Am I officially going to hear you were right?
You were right.
Yeah.
So the last thing I want to talk about in this first half, because I do feel like the first half was more of the struggles. And the second half was the more of like really enjoying and letting the lesson sink in and letting the nervous system calm and all of that. So the other thing that we did not do a great job at in hindsight was it was hard. We had a lot of visitors.
We have a lot of people that love us.
And that, yeah. So I was going to say,
great problem.
Yes. So the good thing was like we wanted all of these people to come visit. These are people we love, people that it would be really hard to go a whole year without seeing, whether they were family or friends. And so we really wanted them to come visit us. And with everyone that came, we had a fantastic time while they were there. So I wouldn't give any of that up. I wouldn't have been like, well, I wish these people didn't come. It wasn't that. It was how could we have structured it better or differently? Because what happened was, especially the like months 3 through 6, we had visitors almost that whole time. I think we did have visitors that whole time except for 2 weeks. So that not only if you think about in the US, it being hard to have visitors for 3 months straight, it is also hard when you're trying to establish community in a new place and you have people you're entertaining and taking around to all the usually same tourist sites that we went to. And so it also, I think, slowed down some of the depth we were creating in our friendships because we were very distracted because we had other people around all the time. So what I think we would have done differently, and you can chime in if you had other ideas, is maybe set certain times that we kind of allowed visitors and other times that we're like, that time doesn't really work for us, so that we would have maybe spaced some things out better, had some people overlap. So, especially if they're people that get along with each other. And some people did this, they came at the same time as someone else, but a lot of people came at their own separate time and they would come for 2 weeks. And then the next 2 weeks we would have.
Yeah, and even if they stayed in their own place, like they're still like, well, what are y'all doing today? And so for me, I probably would have done 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. Like I will share 2 weeks of this experience because what would happen whenever I would get a little frustrated about that? And again, it's not person dependent. It was just like we have this experience that we have saved up for, put a lot of energy into, put a lot of effort into to making this happen. And now all of a sudden it starts to feel like everybody else's experience on the one side of the coin. On the other side of the coin, we're getting to share it. And now it's great to have those, those visitors that we live around here, our friends and our family that really understand what we did, and it gives us more depth to talk about. So I would have tried something in terms of a 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. And on that 2 weeks off, like if you want to be in Peru, that's great. But like, this is our time to build our community and really setting that expectation with them beforehand. So everybody's on the same page. And I guarantee you, everybody would have been cool with it, right? They're our friends and family, our closest friends and family. Those are the ones that took their resources to come and visit. How would that, yeah.
Yeah, and for anyone listening, if you came to visit us, I am so grateful for everyone who invested that time and money to come visit us.
Absolutely.
And like I said,
we got the
enjoyed
pictures.
every visit we had. It was beautiful and wonderful. And like he said, really helped with even just being back here and feeling like, oh yeah, oh, you went to that cafe or you met that friend of ours, right? That has just like really helped integrate the experience for us. It's just, I think we would have done better around the timing of it, not had it 3 months back to back.
And the main reason being is that it just put a stop on the community we were growing. So we were starting to just make friends that we were spending time with, get invited to barbecues. And then we're like, we've got friends here, like, and everybody there, they have people come visit too. And so the culture there is almost like, oh, when you have family or friends there, like that's what you're doing. And so we were also a little strange where we'd be like, come on over. Like, don't you have like visitors? Like, yeah, but like, we'd like them to meet you. So we brought that to that community as well. So yeah, like Angela said, thanks to everybody who came down. Wouldn't change a thing. Might have also just, made it so we had the ability to build a community so we could continue to have the experience we wanted to. And we did have that experience. It just got a little stunted in starting all of the visitors 3 months after we got there. I might have waited at least another month too. Give us 4 months. I think that extra month might have made a huge difference. A little over 2 months. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's just something to think about. Again, if you are going abroad and you have if you're blessed enough like us to have a lot of people that want to visit you, is making sure it works on both ends, right? Like what is a timeline that feels really honoring of that experience?
Yeah, and that took us, and we had a lot of visitors over Christmas, and that was a great time to have visitors.
That's really a great time.
And we had a lot of different overlap. We had Carla, Angela's soul sister, and her family rented a house just around the corner so the girls could go there and hang out. We could walk over, and we had our family there too. And so it was so cool to have a great family Christmas, also a summer Christmas. That was pretty bonkers. And so that was a great time to have visitors. The holidays, I really loved that piece to it. And Christmas was just one of those memorable times because we got to swim on Christmas Eve outdoors.
An outdoor pool.
Thank you, Summer. And yeah. So the first half, to Angela's point, and where we're going to start, hitting the off ramp on this particular show, is really setting the stage. Right? If you go travel and visit somewhere, like you can feel a little, okay, I was there for like 3 or 4 days. Now I got my routine, or a week or two, whatever. I've got my vibe. But man, building a community, getting the girls to build a community, learn the language, for us to get really comfortable in that space, like we belong there and we live there, 6 months. And that first 6 months came with the most tension. I think I said it on the last one, but thank you to Josh Lamphere. Right. When I was going through all these struggles that I was mentioning earlier, I was on one of my men's calls and he just flat out said, let me get this straight. You thought you were going to move your entire family to another continent, another country, another culture, and it was going to be easy? And like that question, as simple as it is, was super profound because my answer was yes. Like, yes, I did. I really did. I didn't see these things coming. And so I hope that some of these awarenesses can help you as you're, gearing up for that challenging thing, year abroad, 6 months abroad, time abroad, we'll call it, starting a business, leaving a business, right? And so those types of insights we didn't see coming and are excited to share them with you. Those challenges helped prepare us to be available to receive all of the joy and the smoothness that really showed up the second half.
And with that, we'll end this.
Yeah. So thank you for listening to another episode of Married and Magnetic with your hosts as the guest, James and Angela Mitchell. We love you so much. We're so grateful you're here. If this is your first time, go ahead and please leave us a review. If you haven't, share this with somebody that you love and care about. And until next time, may your life and love be magnetic.